Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network.
The OnCourse podcast is an IVM production, and if you enjoy listening to our show, you should definitely check out Simplified. Hosted by Chuck, Narain, and Shrikhet, Simplified takes big complex issues and simplifies it to help you appear smarter at parties.
You're listening to the OnCourse podcast.
Hi everyone, welcome to the OnCourse podcast. OnCourse is a creative and alternate education company that aims to bridge the gap between formal classroom education and real-world skills. We offer a range of programs from short skill-based courses to test prep to application assistance for those who are looking to study abroad. My name is Alisha Mashruwala. I'm the CEO and co-founder at OnCourse.
Hi guys, my name is Akhil Laswani. I'm the COO and co-founder at OnCourse.
And today we have Zara as well in the studio. Zara is an associate at OnCourse.
Hi guys.
So I think today what we are going to talk about and kind of touch upon is this topic that everyone wants to know a lot about, right? Data science. So Akhil, why don't you start telling us a little bit of what data science exactly is?
Sure. So data science obviously has become a very relevant field in the last decade or so. But data science essentially is making sense of large data sets, right? So essentially it involves analyzing data to give results or outcomes that are usable by industry in the simplest sense.
And why is it that data science has now become sort of one of the most hot topics?
It's become a really hot topic for multiple reasons, right? For the first reason, we always produce a large amount of data, but for the very first time, we've actually figured out that this data is useful, right? So data right from, from where you spend your money to data on your living patterns, right? So everything that we do, every single thing that we do in our lives actually leaves an imprint, right? For the first time, we can actually make sense of that imprint. So it's actually become a very relevant field.
And for those who kind of want to get into data science, those who want to kind of study data science, what are essential subjects or skill sets do you feel that are needed?
So essentially two things. They need to be very, very, very passionate about math and in particular statistics. Right. The reason for that is because data science at the end of it just deals with numbers. And if you love numbers, it's something you would love to do in the future, right? Because of which it has so many transferable, qualities. Beyond that, I think the other thing which people have to be very, very passionate about is they need to have a little bit of an understanding of computer science also, because data science kind of is at a weird intersection between math and computer science. Of course, it's more on the math side, but if you do have some understanding of computer science, it really does help.
So by computer science, you mean the knowledge of certain languages, or is there something more than that?
Yeah, just basic coding languages, like whether it's HTML, Java, Python, just the basic coding languages, because that just helps you, eventually when you do go into data science, you have to learn a language called R, which is the main software now that's sort of used in data analytics. But if you've already been proficient with coding or programming at some level, that really, really helps you, when you're studying R also.
What are the career prospects for someone who's interested in data sance?
It's actually one of the few fields which actually is spread across industries, right? So you could go into something like biostats, where if you kind of think about how clinic trials are set up. If you think about biotech companies, right? If you think of Fitbit or any of these guys, the way they use data is to actually give you predictable results, right? It tells you, okay, how many calories are you burning? Or it tells you, okay, how many steps have you walked? This is essentially, it's a usage of big data, right? Obviously, the bigger usage is in finance. So if you think of insurance, right? You actually are analyzing someone's ability to, live long. Right, when you decide what premium one person should pay versus another, or you're deciding, okay, what is the probability that their house is going to get blown away by a hurricane, right? So it's amazing like how much it's used in insurance. Of course, the same thing can be used in housing. The same thing can be used in just multiple sectors.
So in order for someone to kind of get into the field of data science in college, are there other colleges that offer data science undergraduate degrees, or is it more of a postgrad program? And if so, if you're going for a postgrad program, then what do you study at an undergraduate level?
So typically there are a few colleges like Indiana in the States and Waterloo in Canada and stuff that do offer data analytics program. But honestly, my advice to anyone who wants to get into the field is just study math, right? Because I think math opens like unlimited possibilities to you, and it still leads you towards data analytics if you wanted to. But a master's will really cement that as a career, right? So sometimes when you make a career decision too early, if you decide to change your mind, it's going to be a little difficult. So I would always recommend go broad and then go narrower for your master's.
So start at an undergrad level, which is slightly more based, and then I guess diverse into doing specifically data analytics from there.
Exactly, yeah.
And are there any specific companies that you feel are specializing in data analytics, or anything in particular that's going on right now that could be really revolutionary in the future?
There's tons of work actually happening, right? Especially in India, if we see even in Bombay, like we see so many new companies always popping up, trying to do some form of data analytics work. The other day, actually, I heard of a company that was using data to actually help you analyze your people's sleep patterns, right? This is actually more from a pharmaceutical perspective. But the reason it was important to pharmaceutical companies was to figure out, okay, what demographics should we be targeting with sleep medicine, right? And while historically it's always been older people who've required this medicine historically, but lifestyle changes and stuff have now, it's become indicative that actually people between the ages of 25 and 45 actually have a very big audience for them as well, especially with the specific sort of lifestyle changes that are happening.
And do you feel like India is kind of at a juncture where we're up to speed with the rest of the world on data science, or is there a lot for us to catch up on as well?
No, there's tons for us to catch up on, right? Like there's so many specific fields, like for example, sports analytics, right? There's so many fields where we're so behind. Like I know of this company that's, based out of Boston, where they actually do wearable technology, right? So they actually work with athletes to give them a specific apparel, let me say, which actually, which they wear through their game. And at the end of it, it's just a pair of shorts, right? At the end of it, it actually gauges what muscles were in use, what muscles were firing, what muscles were not firing. And for athletes who are, hired by franchises, like, the NFL or the NBA, or historically if you think, in the future, the IPL potentially, right? It gives their owners specific data as to like, how prone to injury is this specific athlete, right? So even their physios know, okay, where should they be working with them? Like, because, when you're working with the human body, there's just so many pieces of data that you need to work with, right?
Right. And so in general, which of the countries would you say are like the most up to speed with data analytics, the ones who are doing the most interesting work at the moment?
I think there's a lot of good work happening in the US, specifically because of the money that's being spent on research from the universities. Canada has also sort of picked up with certain universities getting involved. The Nordic countries like Sweden and Finland are doing some really, really cool work. And I think we haven't seen anything on a mass scale yet, which has blown us away. But, like small sort of devices and things will start coming out, which will actually make people more and more aware. Unfortunately, there's not been a big, like Facebook revolution or anything. Data analytics is not really a sexy field. So like, it's one of those things which, is required more on the back end, right? It helps other companies make predictable decisions. So it's a huge field, but it's B2B. So as a consumer who's not in the field, it's very difficult for anyone to really realize how big it is.
Great. We're in conversation with Akhil about data analytics, and we'll be back after a short break.
In a world where people are busy playing Mendicoat at Diwali parties, two men decide to go all in the river.
Don't you mean on the river?
On the river.
Oh yeah.
Two men will go where no one has ever gone before, to a studio with no air conditioning or Coke Zero, to talk about poker.
Hey, order लो ना यार कोई क्या है ये बकवास?
TheSpartanPoker.com presents Mera Kaam Poker, hosted by Azim Banatwala,
The best comedian in the world, according to himself.
and Peter Abraham.
Not related to John.
New episodes out every Wednesday on the IBM podcast app or any other podcasting app you use. And for all our listeners who want to try out their hand at poker, you can log on to TheSpartanPoker.com, register yourself as a user with the promo code IBM, and you will get 200 bonus cash, which you can use to play poker for free. See you at the tables.
We're back in conversation about data analytics.
So would you say there are any sort of stereotypes associated with a data scientist or data analytics as a whole, as an industry?
Yeah, I mean, it was always, like I said, it's never really a sexy industry, right? So like no one really wants to get involved with things like data analytics, saying, oh, it's so geeky, right? But, actually people have started realizing that just the value that it provides is enormous. So when we deal with parents, parents are finally starting to think that, hey, if my son studies math, there's so much more that he can do than just teach math, right? Which is essentially like now people are realizing the value of that as a subject, right? So I think the stereotype of, the geek doing behind a computer is sort of dying away. And it's like literally now anyone who's got any interest in numbers, a guy who wants to go into finance, or someone who wants to make a difference in physics, or someone who wants to make a difference in bio, they all can actually get into data analytics. So there's really no stereotype which can actually, I guess, define it anymore.
What would you say are some of the biggest industries that are currently benefiting from data analytics, and where do you think it could go in the future in terms of which industries could benefit from it as well?
I think finance is the biggest beneficiary. I think insurance in particular, simply because the usage of data is so enormous. I think healthcare is benefiting in a very, very massive way. If you think of like hospitals, I think consumer companies, if you think of like Walmart and, Amazon, being able to track your spending patterns, right? To actually, so today when you go on Amazon, they've seen your search history. So they know what you've bought before. So they will recommend things which are based on your search history, which will be different from mine, right? That's actually machine learning, right? Where essentially the data which you have fed in unintentionally has helped the machine over there figure out what your spending patterns are, and hence is giving you certain predictable suggestions.
And what do you think is the future of something like machine learning?
Oh, machine learning is huge. I think data analytics and machine learning really go hand in hand. Essentially, what machine learning really is the machine taking a life of itself. In data analytics, essentially, you build in something called an algorithm, where once you've built that algorithm, let's assume Amazon builds an algorithm to track someone's spending pattern, then really the machine just takes a life of itself. As more and more data is fed into it, it gets smarter and smarter, right? That's really what machine learning is all about. So I think the future of machine learning is very linked to data analytics. As machine learning grows, data analytics will grow with it.
And so going back to the example of sort of Amazon and Target and Walmart and all of these companies sort of tracking your spending, how does Google fit into the whole equation?
I mean, Google is the king of this, right? Like to think of your search history on your email, right? Have you ever noticed that the ads on top are so relevant to you? And I think that's right from the fact that they actually not just skim your emails, but they own your emails. They can actually the machine actually analyzes, looks for keywords, and spits out suggestions on the basis of that. That has twofold results, right? You may actually get a suggestion which you may want to buy, but as an advertiser, I may get to target people who are more relevant to me. So it's actually doing a really great service by doing this. Of course, privacy is a whole other concern, but besides that, I guess it's a great service.
Yeah, and my next question was going to be, do you think data analytics is an invasion of privacy?
Oh, it's a tough question, but let me put it this way: the data was going to be collected anyway. When you send an email through a Google server, it's on the Google server, right? Whether Google uses it or doesn't use it, it's still on the server, right? When you make a payment through your credit card, you're still making that. There's still Visa or MasterCard still has that data stored, or American Express, right? So all the data analytics does is it says, okay, listen, you have this useless data stored with you. Let me make sense of it for you. So essentially, I don't think it's an invasion of privacy any more than what was already being invaded. Let me put it that way.
I guess there is also kind of a fine line between the two. So, kind of making sure you use the data to benefit rather than kind of kind of using it for the incorrect reasons altogether.
Sure, of course. I mean, we all have heard conspiracy theories of how the governments around the world are using data to sort of help analyze and help track terrorist threats and those sort of things, which I think at the end of it is not a bad idea, right? So, of course, data analytics can also be used in a positive sense. And while, yes, it does invade privacy to some extent, but I think if the results are positive and you really have nothing to hide, then there's really nothing to fear.
So for anyone who is, say a student who is much younger, grade 8, grade 9, grade 10, how do they learn more about data science? Are there specific books that they could read, or are there articles or anything that they should kind of track on a day-to-day basis?
I would say just, honestly, I could suggest things, but it would go over the head at this point. So I would recommend, just learn as much statistics as you possibly can, learn as much math as you possibly can, pick up some computer science skills. I think that would be very useful. Once you reach the age of 14 or 15, you should try to start learning the language R. I think that's useful. And what I've particularly noticed for the older students who are interested in the field, some kind of work experience once you've done these few things is very useful, because unlike a lot of other fields, if you know R and if you're good at math, you can actually add value even as an intern at a data analytics company, right? Which is very unlike finance or marketing or any of those other fields.
Great. Thanks everyone for listening. In case we're currently going to be going on a short break, but if you do want more information or if you do need to get in touch with us, you could follow us on Facebook or Twitter, write to us at info@oncourseglobal.com, or even visit our website www.oncourseglobal.com.
एक्सक्यूज मी भैया, एक्सक्यूज मी.
बोलिए मैडम.
मेन्यू में क्या है?
मेन्यू में सीन अनसीन है, पॉडकास्ट है, ऑन कोर्स है, साइरस है, मेड इन इंडिया, रीडिस्कवरी प्रोजेक्ट, एम्पावरिंग सीरीज, सेक्स वैक्स है, IBM लाइक्स है, सिंप्लीफाइड है, कीपिंग इट क्वियर है, ड्रिंक्स एंड डेस्टिनेशंस है, माय नेबर जकरबर्ग है और द फैन गराज है. आपको क्या चाहिए?
एक बार रिपीट कर देंगे क्या?
रिपीट नहीं करता हम. आप जाओ IBMpodcast.com पे और सुनो ये सब, या फिर डाउनलोड करो उनका ऐप. सब आपकी उंगलियों पे.